Hey everyone, ready to dive in with us today?
Let's get into it.
We're going to be tackling Startup India.
Ooh.
It's a big one, not just a hot topic, but it could be like a gold mine for your UPSC exams.
Yeah, absolutely.
We're talking mains and prelims relevance here.
Dad,
Grab your notebooks and let's get cracking.
it's not even just about acing those exams though, right?
Right.
Understanding Startup India really gives you this glimpse into the future of the Indian economy.
Yeah.
We're talking about innovation, job creation, and, that buzzword you hear everywhere, Atmanirbhar.
Exactly. And for this deep dive, we're pulling our insights from a recent PIB release,
Okay, cool.
all about celebrating 9 years of Startup India,
9 years.
which just so happened to coincide with National Startup Day.
Oh, nice.
So let's rewind back to 2016.
Okay.
Imagine you're an entrepreneur, right? Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed
Hmm.
You've got this game-changing idea.
Yeah.
What does Startup India actually do to help you turn that dream into a reality?
Okay, so back in 2016, the scene was totally different.
Right.
Think back even further, right to the license Raj.
Uh-huh.
The slow shift towards liberalization in the 90s,
Yeah.
Startup India really marked a turning point,
Okay.
Brought in this whole new energy focused on fostering innovation, attracting investment.
Yeah.
It was huge.
So it wasn't just about throwing money at a problem, right?
Oh, yeah.
There's a framework, a system in place.
Right, strategy.
What are the key pillars of this Startup India initiative that we should absolutely know for the exams?
Okay, so think of it like a multi-pronged strategy.
Right.
The first thing any entrepreneur faces is that bureaucratic maze.
Oh, yeah.
All that paperwork, the approvals?
The red tape?
Exactly. Startup India tackles this head on.
Okay.
They have a simplified startup recognition process.
Oh, wow.
Less red tape, faster approvals.
I mean, that's music to any entrepreneur's ears, right?
Yes, that's me.
Just imagine being bogged down with all that paperwork when you're bursting with these ideas.
You just want to get started.
Exactly.
So ease of doing business is a major focus for them.
Which means cutting down on those hurdles, right?
Precisely.
Less of a headache for entrepreneurs.
It's all about empowerment, not overwhelm.
I love that.
Startup India promotes self-certification, streamlines a lot of the compliance procedures, and aims for what they call a single window clearance.
Okay, so single window clearance.
This is super important for the exams.
Got it.
Make sure you understand these terms and how they actually translate to real-world benefits for startups.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But starting a business, it takes more than just paperwork, right?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, funding is crucial,
Absolutely.
especially in those early stages.
Yeah.
So how does Startup India address that?
Okay, so imagine you're a young startup, right?
Yeah.
You're bootstrapping your way through that initial phase. Every rupee counts.
Every rupee counts.
Startup India gets that.
Okay.
They offer these tax breaks for eligible startups.
Really?
Yeah, for 3 consecutive years.
3 years.
3 years.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
especially when you think about how many new businesses struggle to stay afloat in those first few years.
It makes a big difference.
Those tax breaks could be the difference between surviving and actually thriving.
Exactly. It gives them breathing room,
Yeah.
to focus on innovation, product development, reaching that target market without the immediate pressure of hefty taxes.
Right.
This is definitely something you should jot down for mains prep.
Okay.
How these tax benefits actually become tangible support for early stage startups.
That's a great point. Now, I'm noticing Startup India isn't a one-size-fits-all kind of approach.
Right.
It recognizes that different sectors have very unique needs.
Uh-huh.
The PIB release mentions specific policies for biotech, agriculture, renewable energy.
Yeah, this is where it gets really interesting.
Right.
The government realizes a generic approach just wouldn't cut it.
Yeah.
So they've crafted sector-specific policies to nurture startups in key industries.
Oh, interesting.
Industries that align with India's growth trajectory. Let's take renewable energy, for example.
Okay, let's not overwhelm our listeners, though.
Yeah, we gotta pace ourselves.
Let's dive into those sector-specific policies in detail in the next part.
Sounds like a plan.
You won't want to miss it.
It's gonna be good.
Welcome back, everyone.
Back for more.
Before we jumped into the break, we're about to explore those sector-specific policies under Startup India.
Right. It's like they get their own customized toolkit for their industry.
Ooh.
And we were just about to dive into renewable energy.
Oh,
A
yeah.
hot topic for the UPSC, by the way.
It definitely is. And think about it. India is committed to reducing its carbon footprint.
Yeah.
Renewable energy is key.
Huge.
But setting up like a solar power plant or a wind farm,
Yeah.
that's not exactly a walk in the park.
Yeah.
You need massive investment technical expertise,
Uh-huh.
regulatory know-how. It's a lot.
Oh, yeah. A whole lot.
And that's where Startup India steps in with some targeted support, right?
Right.
What kind of support are we talking about?
Okay, so think about it. Tax incentives, specifically for renewable energy startups.
Okay,
Easier access to land for setting up those projects.
makes sense.
Streamlined approvals for grid connectivity.
So they're really trying to create like a more conducive environment for these startups to flourish.
Exactly.
I see. So it's about recognizing that certain sectors are crucial for national development
Yeah.
and giving them that extra push.
It's strategic.
And it's not just about the financial aid, right?
Right.
The PIB release also highlighted capacity building as a key pillar of Startup India.
Absolutely.
So it's not just about the money, it's also about the mentorship and the guidance.
Yeah, imagine you're this young entrepreneur venturing into the complex world of renewable energy. I
Yeah.
mean, you'd need access to experts.
Of course.
People who can help you navigate the technical, the financial, the regulatory hurdles.
Right, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
So Startup India provides that support system through mentorship programs,
Uh-huh.
workshops, networking events.
Connecting those aspiring entrepreneurs with those who have been there, done that.
I like it connecting the dots.
The Startup India Hub plays a crucial role here.
Okay?
It's this central platform connecting startups with mentors, investors, industry experts.
A one-stop shop.
Exactly.
I love it.
Now, for your mains exam,
Yes.
you could even cite examples of successful startups,
That's okay.
specifically in renewable energy,
Okay.
that have really benefited from this mentorship aspect of Startup India.
That's a great tip. So we've talked about the framework, the support system, but what about the results?
Yeah.
Has Startup India actually delivered on its promises?
Let's look at the numbers.
Okay.
As per that PIB release,
Okay.
India is now the third largest startup ecosystem globally.
What?
Yeah. And we've got over 100 unicorns.
Wait, hold on, unicorns.
Unicorns, companies valued at over $1 billion.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah. And back in 2016,
Okay.
we had a mere 500 DPIIT recognized startups.
At BPIT.
Yeah, the Department for Promotion of Industry and Internal Trade. They're the nodal agency responsible for implementing Startup India.
So DPIIT recognition is like a stamp of approval,
Pretty much.
giving them access to those benefits and schemes.
Exactly.
And by 2025, that number has skyrocketed to a whopping 1.59 lakh.
Yeah. It's massive growth.
Massive.
And it's not just about the quantity,
No.
it's the quality of innovation, the impact they're creating.
Yeah.
All these numbers are straight from that PIB release we mentioned.
Okay.
Treasure trove of information for your UPSC prep.
A treasure trove.
Yeah.
Okay, now, one of the biggest concerns for any government,
Uh-huh.
job creation,
Jobs.
has Startup India delivered on that front?
Absolutely.
Okay.
As of October 2024,
Uh-huh.
startups in India have created 16.6 lakh direct jobs.
Wow.
And here's the interesting part.
Okay.
It's not just concentrated in tech.
Oh.
While IT services are a major driver,
Okay.
we're seeing significant job creation in healthcare life sciences.
Yeah.
Even traditional sectors like agriculture are getting a tech makeover thanks to startups.
That's fantastic news.
Mhm.
It really shows the ripple effect Startup India is having,
Yeah.
creating opportunities across the board.
Yeah.
And it's really heartening to see that the PIB release highlights the rise of women entrepreneurs.
Yes. Over 73,000 startups
Wow.
have at least one woman director.
That's amazing.
Think about the societal implications.
Yeah.
It's progress.
Yeah.
Women are breaking those barriers, stepping into those leadership roles.
Absolutely.
This is something you could touch upon in your mains answer.
Okay.
How Startup India is not just about economic empowerment, but also fostering a more inclusive and equitable entrepreneurial landscape.
Absolutely. And it's not just the big picture stuff either.
Right.
Startup India has launched some really interesting initiatives
Uh-huh.
that you should definitely be aware of for prelims.
Okay.
For instance, there's the Startup Mahakumbh.
Oh, yes. Imagine this massive gathering.
Okay.
Startups, investors, mentors, policymakers, all under one roof. Wow.
Showcasing India's entrepreneurial ecosystem.
So it's like a big celebration of startups.
Exactly.
Right.
The first one was held in 2024,
Okay.
and the second edition is coming up in April 2025.
Mark your calendars, folks.
Potential current affairs question right there.
Right.
And then there's the BHaceCar platform launched in 2024.
BA-SCAR.
Yeah.
What is that?
Now, BHaceCar is really interesting.
Okay.
It's a digital platform that acts as a central hub connecting all the players.
Oh, wow.
Investors, mentors, startups, service providers, government agencies, all on one platform.
That's impressive.
This is especially beneficial for startups in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities.
Okay.
It provides them with access to resources and opportunities that were previously only concentrated in those major metropolitan areas.
So bridging the gap,
Exactly.
creating a more level playing field for everyone.
Exactly.
But let's be realistic.
Okay.
No initiative is without its challenges.
Oh, of course.
Despite all this progress,
Uh-huh.
what are some of the roadblocks that startups in India are still facing? That's the crucial question, and the PIB release acknowledges these challenges.
Okay.
One of the biggest hurdles, particularly for those startups outside major cities, is access to funding.
Funding, yeah.
In fact, the data shows a worrying trend.
What's that?
Funding in Tier 2 and Tier 3 cities actually declined in 2024.
That's concerning. Why do you think this funding gap exists?
Well, there are several factors.
Okay.
Investors often perceive startups in smaller cities as riskier
Okay.
due to things like limited infrastructure, a smaller talent pool, and market access.
Right. It's a bit of a vicious cycle, isn't it?
It is.
They struggle to attract funding, which then hinders their growth.
And then they can't create jobs and contribute to the local economy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a multifaceted issue with some pretty big consequences.
Yeah, for sure.
The PIB release also touches upon the regulatory landscape as a potential hurdle for startups.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, navigating India's regulatory environment,
It's complex.
it's a lot, especially for startups that are really trying to disrupt traditional industries.
Yeah, there's often ambiguity, a lack of clarity regarding specific rules and regulations,
And that creates uncertainty.
which can discourage innovation.
For instance, there was that whole debate about categorizing app-based cab services
Oh, yeah. Ola, Uber.
under the Motor Vehicles Act.
Right.
That created so much confusion, so many operational challenges for those companies.
Absolutely.
And then there's that new data protection law.
Uh-huh.
While it is crucial for safeguarding privacy,
Yeah.
it does add another layer of complexity for startups that handle a lot of data.
It's a balancing act, protecting those consumer interests while still fostering a conducive environment for innovation.
And speaking of challenges,
Yes.
let's not forget that daunting statistic from the PIB release.
Ooh, which one?
90% of startups fail
Oh, yeah.
within the first 5 years.
It's a tough world.
That's a stark reminder of the realities of the startup world.
For sure.
Why is that failure rate so high?
Well, the startup ecosystem is inherently competitive. You've got cutthroat competition, rapidly evolving technologies, and the market is constantly shifting.
It's a tough answer.
Operational inefficiencies can be crippling,
Right.
and a lot of startups struggle to scale up effectively.
And there's that pressure to grow at an unsustainable pace,
Oh, yeah,
often fueled by investor expectations.
definitely.
I mean, look at the edtech downturn,
a classic example.
a sector that was booming,
Yeah,
and suddenly they face a reality check.
it happens.
It really highlights the importance of building those sustainable business models,
Right.
focusing on long-term value creation
Mhm.
and not getting caught up in all the hype.
It's easy to get swept away,
It is.
but you got to stay grounded.
It's a valuable lesson for aspiring entrepreneurs to learn from the mistakes of others.
Absolutely.
But on a positive note,
Yes.
the PIB release does offer some potential solutions and strategies for the road ahead.
Okay.
Shall we explore those?
Let's do it. I think this is where you as UPSC aspirants can really shine in your mains exam. Okay.
Being able to analyze the challenges and propose solutions demonstrates a deeper understanding.
Got it.
Go beyond just regurgitating facts.
Okay, I'm all ears. What are some of the ways we can address these challenges and pave the way for a more robust startup ecosystem in India?
Okay, so one of the key solutions mentioned in the PIB release is this concept of regulatory sandboxes.
Regulatory sandboxes.
Yeah,
What are those?
Imagine a controlled environment where startups can test out their innovative products and services
Okay,
without immediately facing the full force of existing regulations.
so it's like a safe space for experimentation.
Exactly.
I remember reading about the RBI's FinTech Sandbox.
Oh, yeah.
It allowed fintech companies to try out new technologies and business models
Uh-huh.
without being stifled by all those regulations.
Exactly. And the PIB release suggests expanding this sandbox approach
Oh, interesting.
to other sectors like health tech, ed tech, and clean tech.
So fostering innovation while ensuring consumer protection.
Striking that balance.
I love that. It's a brilliant idea.
Yeah.
Another solution they mentioned is targeted skill development.
Oh, yeah. We've got Skill India, right?
Right.
This huge pool of talent.
But we need to align those skills with the demands of a rapidly evolving startup world.
Precisely.
So we need specialized training programs in things like AI, blockchain, data analytics, cybersecurity.
All those in-demand skills that startups are looking for.
It's about anticipating the future needs of the job market
Uh-huh.
and equipping our workforce with the right skills to thrive in a tech-driven economy.
Exactly.
And the PIB release also emphasizes decentralizing startup hubs.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
can't have all the action just concentrated in a few metro cities.
No way.
We need to foster that hub and spoke model,
Love that visual.
where major cities act as hubs and support surrounding smaller cities as spokes,
Spreading the startup magic.
creating a more inclusive and equitable ecosystem.
Precisely. And it's not just about geography either.
Okay.
We also need to ensure that entrepreneurs from all backgrounds,
Right.
regardless of gender, caste, socioeconomic status,
Yeah.
have equal opportunities to thrive.
Speaking of leveling the playing field,
Yeah.
the PIB release also mentioned the possibility of enhancing tax incentives.
Oh, yeah. They even mentioned looking at Israel as an example.
What do they do differently?
Well, Israel has a very favorable tax regime for tech companies,
Okay.
and it's played a huge role in their startup success story.
Interesting.
So extending tax breaks beyond the current 3 years,
Uh-huh.
or offering additional incentives for deep tech startups or those addressing national priorities
Yeah.
could really attract more investment and fuel innovation.
And there was one final strategy that really caught my eye.
Oh, what's that?
Boosting government procurement from startups.
Ah, yes.
This seems like a huge untapped opportunity.
It is. The U.S. government, for example,
Okay.
has a mandate to procure a certain percentage of goods and services from small businesses.
Interesting.
It's been a game changer for their startup ecosystem.
Wow.
Imagine if the Indian government did something similar.
That would be huge.
It would create a massive market for startups,
Right.
especially those working on solutions relevant to government needs.
So it's about creating that initial demand, giving startups a platform to showcase their capabilities and scale up.
Exactly. A win-win situation.
I love it.
Startups get access to a large and reliable customer base,
Yeah.
and the government gets innovative solutions to address its various challenges.
So we've really come full circle here.
We have.
From the initial spark of an idea to the potential for government support to help startups succeed.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. We started with the genesis of Startup India,
Mm.
explored its achievements and the challenges it faces,
Right.
and now we're looking ahead at the exciting possibilities for the future.
And what a journey it's been.
It really has.
From a fledgling ecosystem in 2016 to the third largest in the world today,
It's incredible.
Startup India has undeniably made its mark.
But the quest to make India a global innovation hub by 2047 continues.
It does.
And for our UPSC aspirants listening in, remember, Startup India doesn't exist in isolation.
No.
It's interconnected with initiatives like Skill India, Digital India, Make in India. Understanding these linkages is key for those comprehensive and insightful answers for your mains exam.
That's an excellent point. Think holistically, connect the dots, and your answers will truly shine.
Couldn't agree more. So as we wrap up our deep dive into Startup India,
Yes.
I'm curious to hear from you, dear listeners.
Yeah.
What resonated with you most? What sparked your interest? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's keep this conversation going.
And don't forget to like, subscribe, and tell your friends about the deep dive.
We're here to help you navigate the world of current affairs, break down complex topics, and make learning a truly engaging experience.
Until next time, keep those brains buzzing, keep those entrepreneurial spirits high, and keep diving deep with us.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We're wrapping up our exploration of Startup India today.
It's a really fascinating topic.
It is,
Yeah.
especially, for anyone who's trying to understand the Indian economy.
Oh, absolutely.
And, of course, for those of you gearing up for those UPSC exams.
Definitely a must-know.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Now, in the last part, we were talking about how the government can really step up its support for startups.
Right. We need to help them overcome all those hurdles we talked about.
Exactly, like those regulatory sandboxes, remember?
Yeah, creating those safe spaces to experiment.
Especially in sectors like health tech and ed tech.
Yeah, it could lead to some really game-changing innovation.
Absolutely. And what about Skill India? We talked about that too.
Such a great initiative.
It is. But we need to make sure those skills are aligned with what startups actually need.
Yeah, like specialized training in AI, blockchain, cybersecurity.
All those cutting-edge fields.
The things that are in high demand.
Exactly. It's not just about having a skilled workforce. It's about having the right skills.
Right, the skills that match the needs of this rapidly evolving tech-driven economy.
Exactly. And remember that hub-and-spoke model?
Oh, yeah, decentralizing those startup hubs.
Moving beyond just the major cities.
That's so important for inclusive growth.
It is. Making sure opportunities reach entrepreneurs all across India.
Creating a more level playing field for everyone.
Exactly. And for our UPSC folks out there, this is key for your mains answers.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
How does Startup India actually contribute to a more equitable and accessible entrepreneurial landscape?
Hitting those key points.
The PIB release even talked about maybe enhancing those tax incentives for startups.
They even mentioned looking at Israel.
Oh, yeah. What do they do over there?
Well, Israel has a really favorable tax regime for tech companies,
Okay.
and it's a big part of their startup success story.
Interesting.
So extending tax breaks beyond those first 3 years,
Uh-huh.
or even offering additional incentives for deep tech startups or those focused on national priorities.
Okay.
It could be huge, attract more investment fuel, more innovation.
Right. And I love that idea from the PIB release about the government increasing its procurement from startups.
Oh, yeah, that's a big one.
Seems like a huge untapped opportunity.
It really is. I mean, look at the U.S.
What do they do?
They have a program where a certain percentage of their procurement has to come from small businesses.
Oh, wow.
It's been massive for their startup ecosystem.
So they're creating that demand,
Exactly.
giving those startups a platform.
And helping them scale up.
Imagine if India did the same thing.
It would be incredible.
It would. So we've really gone from the very beginning of Startup India,
Way back in 2016.
explored its achievements and the challenges it's facing.
It's been quite a journey.
And now we're looking ahead at all the exciting possibilities.
Startup India has come a long way, from a fledgling ecosystem to the third largest in the world.
It's amazing.
But the journey's not over. We're aiming to be a global innovation hub by 2047.
And for our UPSC listeners,
Mm-hmm.
don't forget Startup India isn't a standalone thing.
Right, it's all connected.
It links up with Skill India, Digital India Make in India.
It's all part of the big picture.
And understanding that is so important for those mains answers.
Absolutely. Think holistically, connect those dots, and your answers will really stand out.
Couldn't have said it better myself. So we've reached the end of our deep dive into Startup India.
We covered a lot of ground.
But we encourage you to check out that PIB release we talked about.
It's full of insights,
Yeah.
especially if you're prepping for those UPSC exams.
Absolutely. And don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe to our channel, and tell your friends about the deep dive.
We're here to help you navigate the world of current affairs
Break down those complex topics.
and make learning a truly engaging experience.
So until next time, keep those brains buzzing, keep those entrepreneurial spirits high, and keep diving deep with us.